Yesterday, Rudy Giuliani assumed direct control of the Trump legal efforts in Pennsylvania. And so this old, I'll say man, was going into court again for the first time in literally decades. That is a tall order for someone like him who is so barely clinging to reality that he doesn't know when he's in a Borat movie. But anyway, it happened. The one-time New York City mayor, who is President Trump's personal lawyer, took over the federal lawsuit from Pennsylvania attorneys and got permission to represent the campaign at a hearing in Williamsport, where his first act was to ask Judge Matthew Brann if he could remove his mask. Not his COVID mask, he doesn't wear those, literally the bit of flesh that is loosely draped over his skull. Anyway, Giuliani, a last-minute addition to the Trump team's legal roster for the pivotal hearing, personally presented the campaign's arguments in court. In the first federal case, he has argued in nearly 3 decades. He varied between struggling at times to comprehend the judge's questions on finer points of the law and boldly speculating at others about widespread fraud and malfeasance. So the main issue, and there are several that we'll get to, the main issue that Rudy Giuliani was facing was that there is no evidence to point to of fraud, and he doesn't know what day it is or what room he's in. So when you combine those things, it results in something crazy. Lacking evidence of specific wrongdoing, Giuliani cited everything from a county commissioner race in Las Vegas to dubious historical claims that late Chicago Mayor Richard Daley manipulated returns back in 1960 to help elect John F. Kennedy. During the course of oral arguments, Giuliani offered varying estimates of 680 to 770,000 to 1.2 million ballots cast in the Keystone State that he claimed were illegal. Depending on the minute, he couldn't remember how many it was. As far as we're concerned, Your Honor, he said, those ballots could have been from Mickey Mouse, who he thought was sitting next to him in court. But anyway, we have more insanity. That's sort of the overview that he's not even speaking particularly about the case he's in court to argue. He's just pretending he's on Laura Ingraham.
Isn't it like our right to be able to see these proceedings? This is about the election of the United States of America based on what the citizens voted. And many citizens who are concerned about the outcome of the election. If you're a Trump MAGA supporter, how come you don't want to see these proceedings? How come you don't want to see the evidence that Rudy Giuliani is laying down in front of this judge and pressing him at every turn? How come we can't see this? I said this yesterday in the production meeting. I was like, man, I don't watch court shows. My parents do that. The Judge Judys and stuffs of the world, right?
I don't either.
Those aren't entertaining to me. This would be the most entertaining court show of all time. And if we're talking about ratings, Donald Trump, let's get this on TV. I want to see this. This could serve dual purpose. We can see all your evidence, and everyone cannot be convinced of all this widespread voter fraud that Rudy Giuliani is laying down in the middle of court. And we can all have a nice, entertaining afternoon watching him flail around and scream and spill his coffee on his crotch in the middle of court. This would be great. Why can't we see it? It really should be. I mean, in all seriousness, why can't we see it? This is our electoral process. This is our judicial process at work. We're citizens. We pay for this. Let's see it.
Yeah, and honestly, if I listed 5 things he actually did and threw in one, like spilled coffee on his crotch that didn't happen, I defy you to predict which one didn't happen, because this stuff is bananas. It is Dr. Johnny Bananas. So let me give you just a few things. And honestly, if you're interested, if you really want to see how batty this guy is, mentally and physically, there are Twitter threads that go over lots of the transcript. You can find all that. I'm not going to burden you with that, but he mistook the judge for a federal judge in a separate Pennsylvania district who rejected a separate Trump campaign case. In Rudy's defense, they have lost in so many court cases. How could anyone expect to keep all the judges straight? He acknowledged later in the hearing that he didn't know what the term strict scrutiny meant, which, look, if you're watching this and you don't know what strict scrutiny is, that's fine. You're a regular person. He's been a lawyer for 300 years and he doesn't know what strict scrutiny is. But that at least is a sort of legalese sort of thing. Okay, what about just regular words? Here's a little back and forth that we're actually gonna have the full dialogue for. So he says, in the plaintiff's counties, they were denied the opportunity to have an unobstructed observation and ensure opacity. I'm not quite sure I know what opacity means. It probably means you can see, right? The judge responded, it means you can't. And Giuliani said, big words, Your Honor, but they weren't. They weren't big words, and it wasn't a big brain. The word opacity, I don't want to be an elitist or anything. I don't think that's a tough one for a lawyer.
This is the thing. Every once in a while, you run across some vocabulary words maybe you used to know, maybe you haven't used them forever, and you forget, right? I can give a pass on that because it happens to me. But you're in court, and you're talking about the transparency of the election and how things were hidden, and how the people, your election viewers weren't, or whatever the hell they're called, your election observers weren't allowed into the proceedings, and they were screwed over in this way, and they did this to us. You have to know the vernacular based off of what you're arguing. That's all. It's fine.
Yeah.
If you're talking football, it's okay if you don't know what the word means. It's fine because you don't really have to use it when you're talking about football. You probably have to know about the pass rush defense, maybe the linebacker, maybe the quarterback, maybe potentially the wide receiver or a slot receiver. Maybe you want to talk about nickel defense. You should know these things when you're talking about football. When you're talking about things with transparency of your election, maybe you should know what the word is when you're talking about that subject. Just saying. Just a small request.
Yeah, this is the legal equivalent of like desperately trying to get your tag team partner to tag you in and then immediately running into a steel chair. Like, you should have known the chair was coming. You're a wrestler. But he didn't. And there's more to it. It's just sad though. Like, he's a bad guy, so we don't have to have any sympathy for him. But he also shouldn't be involved in any of this. At some point, I don't know if does he have a wife? He's had several. One of his wives should do something, or his family should do something. Someone. He should not be in a court. He should be in a assisted living environment or something like that. He's not equipped for this. And no, I'm partially joking, and I feel a little bit freed up to do that because he's a really bad guy who is trying to effectively end democracy. So I don't have much sympathy for him. But this is just sad.
Yeah. Also, by the way, they said before he went to court that he hasn't been in a court proceeding in since '92 or something.
Yep.
I was like, well, does that really make a difference? Apparently, it does.
It does. And that was one day in court. All that was one day. Check out the Damage Report podcast each day, wherever you get your podcasts, whether Pocket Casts or Stitcher or iTunes. You can join me as I give you the news and stories you want, with a range of co-hosts and interview guests jumping in on the fun each day. Again, that's the Damage Report, wherever you get your podcasts. And if you get them at iTunes, don't forget to rate and review. Sometimes I'll read them live on the show.